Hello, my name is Monsignor John Kasza here at St. James Parish in Novi, Michigan. And this topic of today's video is terrorism. And I just wanted to briefly kind of give an overview of what we are called to do as Catholic Christians in the face of terrorism. First of all, terrorism is not something that we can control. Despite all of the political and sociological aspects of it and things that people are doing, there's really no way to combat terrorism effectively. We can have counter-terrorist activities, we can have governments, we can have armies and so forth, but when you have someone who is really committed to a particular cause, whether it's a religious cause or fanatical cause or something political or religious, that person is often unable to be controlled. But what can we do as Catholic Christians? The first thing that we can do is pray. Pray for those who do terrorist activities. Pray for those who are contemplating terrorist activities. Really take time to ask God to help people to change their minds and their hearts so that they can be more loving, more kind, more forgiving. The second thing that we can do is to teach our children about what it means to be a child of God. First of all, being a child of God means that we respect one another. We recognize that we are all different, but we are all children of one God. We may have different belief systems, we may have different theologies or ideologies, but we are still called to respect one another and to learn about one another's ideologies, learn about one another's activities, learn about what one another believes, and share that. But sometimes we don't always do that very well. And that brings us to our third point. What happens when you encounter someone who is very fanatical? Well, hopefully you can convince them that they don't need to be as fanatical as they are. Hopefully you can convince them that, life is not just seen in black and white, but it's many shades of gray, that people see things through different lenses. And while you may feel that your way is the right way, there are almost 7 billion people in the world. And those 7 billion people have hearts and souls and consciences that help them to live their life. And you can't control other people. You can't control people by saying, you've got to believe this, because each person has free will and intellect. But more importantly, I think it's important to really focus on the fact that when someone is focused on destruction, we have to take measures that prevent them from carrying out that destruction. And so you're encouraged not only to pray for people, but to also be aware of what's around you. If someone is acting in a very strange manner, for example, they seem to be a loner, they seem to be someone that's off on the fringes, or they're espousing ideas which really go contrary to the church's teaching or God's law, to really watch them carefully. And if they become a problem, really to share that with somebody in authority, to say, I'm a little concerned about so-and-so and what they're saying, what they're doing, what they're writing. Not that you're trying to be a big brother, a big sister, pardon me, but that you're trying to really keep everybody safe. And so I encourage all of us, as a third thing to do, is just to really be vigilant when we see people in the world that are not acting in a godly way, because chances are they're planning something. And fourth, if someone is using God as an excuse for doing their activities, God made me do this, or God called me to do this, chances are they're wrong. God does not will the destruction of his people. God does not will people to kill others. God does not need anyone to kill in his name. God never tells us to kill as a way of making God present. So if any group says that they're killing because of God, they're wrong, they're terrorists, they're evil. And we should be very careful about groups that are like that. Any group that says God hates is also wrong, because God is a God of love, a God of mercy, a God of compassion, a God of forgiveness. God always holds out that hand of friendship. And so if things are happening in the world and people are saying, well, God told me to do this, be very careful and watch that person and make sure that that person cannot do any harm, because chances are if they think that God's telling them to do it, they're going to do it because they don't care. So as we continue to combat terrorism in the world in the face of all these evils, we pray that there will be conversion, that people will change their hearts and minds. We pray that we can be vigilant, and we also pray that we can take action if need be, that we can get involved and really help others to see that God is a God of love and calls us to love one another, not hate. God calls us to build, not destroy. God calls us to forgive, not hold grudges. And above all, God calls us to love one another as brothers and sisters in the Lord.